Good morning, Prof. My title is Surrogacy Paternity Determination in China. My name is Liu Ziliang. The contents is about 11 parts. Abstract, introduction, problem statement, research objectives, research questions, methodology, literature review, article body, conclusion, limitation and future research, references. Introduction. Surrogacy is a fertility technique in which a woman surrogate mother carries and delivers a child for another person or couple. The second part is about problem statement. The problems that China is facing are the provisions of surrogacy in China only appear in the form of administrative regulations, without clear legal provisions, which leads to the judge the determination of surrogacy paternity without a clear legal basis. The judgment standard is inconsistent, damages the judicial credibility. Research objective. This article explores the rules for determining surrogacy parent-child relationships, aiming to provide suggestions for China's legislation on surrogacy parent-child relationships. Methodology. This article employs a blend of qualitative research methods and legal doctrinal analysis to scrutinize pertinent information extracted from both paper sources and data repositories such as Internet databases. Subsequently, the amassed data undergoes scrutiny through historical analysis, content analysis, and comparative analysis. Findings. It was concluded that China needs to explicitly establish the principle of the best interests of the child in its legislation, and that the judges should give priority to the doctrine of childbirth and the doctrine of the best interests of the child. Limitations. The shortcoming of this article is that the research on the determination of surrogacy paternity in countries other than China is not sufficient. Part 2. Introduction. The scope of this study is limited to surrogacy in this assisted reproductive technology. China's official stance is now to ban surrogacy. The absence of existing laws makes it problematic for China to regulate surrogate parenthood. One of the reasons for this is the high percentage of the Chinese population that is not religious. Surrogacy adjacents. Surrogacy agencies still exist and have chosen to expand in a more covert way underground. I found 3 typical surrogacy paternity disputes, which will be analyzed in the main test. Part 3, problem statement, is more comprehensive. The first, without clear legal provisions. Just as I mentioned before. Moreover, the lack of legislation on the determination of surrogacy paternity is not conducive to safeguarding the rights of surrogate children. Part 4, research objectives, is about a general objective and specific objectives. The general objective. arguing for the necessity of legislation on the determination of surrogacy paternity in China and proposing a legislative path for the legislation on surrogacy paternity in China. Specific objectives. The first analyzes the types of surrogacy, attitudes towards surrogacy in different countries, the doctrines that recognize surrogate paternity, and the relationship between national attitudes towards surrogacy and the principles for determining surrogate paternity. Second, analyzes the typical cases in China. Three, to propose suggestions for legislation on surrogacy. Next, 5. Research questions. Research questions is according to the research objectives. 6. Methodology. This part has just been introduced. Here is a more detailed explanation of the reasons. Method of data connection, collecting relevant papers and e-books through Internet academic databases. Downloading judicial practice cases through China's Judgment and Decision Network. Collected laws and regulations on surrogacy in China and other countries through the Internet. Here is more detailed explanation of the data analysis method. Part 7. Literature Review. The purpose of this literature review is firstly to locate the type of surrogacy in China by analyzing countries with different attitudes towards surrogacy, and secondly to analyze the doctrines of surrogacy paternity. To know the theoretical basis of the mainstream identification of surrogacy paternity, setting the stage for the legislative recommendations that follow. Attitudes towards surrogacy. First, allowed all types of surrogacy. Second, prohibits commercial surrogacy but allows friends and family to help each other type of surrogacy. Third, prohibits all types of surrogacy. This is the introduction. There are 5 doctrines of surrogate paternity determination. First, childbirth doctrine. Second, genetic doctrine. Third, contract doctrine. Fourth, best interest of the child doctrine. 5. Adoption. Here is the introduction. Based on the previous studies, it is established that the viewpoint of the best interests of the child is the foundation, but unfortunately there is no consensus on how to deal with the determination of surrogacy paternity. There are 3 parts. Part 1, article body of the Part 1, types of surrogacy and relationship between national attitudes towards surrogacy and the doctrine of surrogate parentage. Part 2, typical cases, study of surrogacy paternity determination in China. Part 3, legislative recommendations on the determination of paternity in surrogacy. Here is more specific conclusion. Here is more specific limitation and the reference.